my career is fueled by the outdoors, and most times my experiences as a field on a hunt are what I bring back into the studio to create pieces of fine art. And so we thought it'd be cool to kind of break down like a little bit of a game film from a recent hunt in Florida. Clay and I were out the last morning of the hunt. We called in a bird, and the only intentions we had were to video him and photograph him. And he was there in the decoys for about an hour. As you can see, we'll explain how this hen got toppled over earlier. But I want to walk through and explain a few of the things that I look for as an artist when it comes to poses, when it comes to angles, when it comes to lighting and everything. This morning, we didn't have much light. What we were trying to do is we set up the decoys knowing these birds roosted off the backside of the pasture, hoping we'd get some backlit tail feathers, which are always great, but turned out that morning was overcast, which isn't a bad thing. But here, a lot of people paint strutting turkeys, and it's natural. That's their display during the spring, during mating season, and it's obviously the most brilliant representation of the bird. But there's some differences that I want to get into, and as an artist, when I'm really critiquing and nitpicking a pose. So let's watch this bird as he comes back into the decoys. This is in slow motion. And obviously, you can see he's tilting his fan forward. Right here is where I start getting interested as an artist, when he goes into half strut. You can see right here, there's a lot more contour, there's a lot more shape, there's a lot more outline here that I can work with as an artist. My only critique of this scene would be that the tail feathers are kind of funky. They're kind of a flat plane here. And so what I would do is wait for a little bit more of an angle. One thing you want to notice here too is that the tail feathers, they actually are different angles as they go down. So we'll let him keep doing his thing as he comes back into the decoys. At this point, I think we were calling to him as well to get him to stick his head up and do some different things. You notice he'll go back into full strut here. The tail fan rotates again. This here is probably the worst tail fan angle that he's done so far. That's really going to be hard to pull off as an artist because you have some of the front of the tail feathers, some of the back of the tail feathers, and it's in a single plane. So that's not going to be a great pose to work from. You can see as he comes in here, he's going to turn his tail fan a little bit more. And he's going to come into half strut again as he sticks his head up. And right in here, to me, is one of the most interesting poses that he does. Right there. So he's got a little bit more tail fan. You can see a foot. His head is quartered a little bit. And so to me, that's the kind of pose that I'm going to look for. But as you can see throughout all of these here, we'll go back into this one too. If you really look, the turkey's feathers are very fluid, how they move. So they go up and they go down, and they move left and they move right. And so as an artist, that's one of the best poses I've seen yet. But as an artist, you don't want to get caught up in being a slave to your reference, because the reality is his feathers, his tail fan, everything is very fluid. So if you need to move something to serve the painting better, you can do that and you can take that liberty. Right here is probably a scene, and what I'll do here in a little bit is dive into how I will take a turkey photo and try to tell a better story with the background and mock one of those up in Photoshop. See kind of what we're looking at here. One thing I like to do is I crop in with the animal centered to one side or another. And then from here, I'll start filling in some background elements. So this was an old photo that I had way back in the day, some Florida reference scenes. And, so much of Florida is covered with water and palmettos. wouldn't be an Osceola scene without those in it. So I'll go back in here and I will loosely select the turkey and pull him out of this pasture, because to me this pasture doesn't say Florida. So we're going to add some Florida in it. First thing we're going to do, we're going to frame him on the backside with some of these palmettos. And then everything from here, now that I've got the bird where I want, is going to be designed where the background accentuates the turkey. So right here, I'm trying to place that bright water in the background next to a dark spot of the turkey so you get contrast there. Same thing, I'm going to add in a like a Florida type scene with some Spanish moss, kind of a swampy deal in the background. And again, I'm going to frame it to where we have structure behind the bird on the left, and he's looking into the open area on the right. And then position the water in a place that supports the bird. So anywhere where the turkey is light, I'm going to have dark in the background. Anywhere where the turkey is dark, I'm going to have light in the background. And that's going to provide contrast and help guide the viewer's eye. So I'm pretty well settled on the placement of some things. Now I'm going to try to blend these elements together to where they look like a unified scene rather than a bunch of elements, Photoshopped together. And a lot of the work combining these elements is done on the canvas by choosing the kind of colors that I want, the brushes that I want. That'll help set the tone here. I'm going to put a little bit of fog in the background. I'm going to move this water down a little bit. And what I'm doing here is trying to take some of the detail out of the grass so that it shows a little bit more of a painterly image, and I don't feel too much pressure to paint every blade of grass. So we've got a wet, swampy pasture, and now I'm going to go in and start deleting some of the old background, just so it's not confusing here, just so we can fully take that turkey out of the other background. On areas like this, a lot of times, like where the wings meet the grass, I'll feather that. I'll blend it a little bit. Now what I'm going to start doing here is making that turkey an Osceola. So making sure his wings are dark, making sure he's got a lot of contrast, a lot of bright, saturated colors like you would see in Florida. So here we're just adding some details in the bird's head. He was pretty white. It was kind of an overcast morning, and that bird was pretty hot, so he was pretty white overall. But I'm going to do an overlay layer with some warmer colors here to show a little bit of sun filtering through on the turkey. And here we're just going to add some highlights, just going to add some sun filtering through. And then that's also, the sun is going to cast some shadows. So lights and darks and shadows and highlights are what I'm going to use to move the viewer's eye through the composition. With this second painting, we're going to take a completely different approach, and we're going to go more of a foggy morning in the pines. So I had another photo that I took way back in the day, and on the edge of a clear cut in Florida. And we're going to see what we can do creating a swampy, southern planted pine scene here. What I'm doing here is I'm keeping all of the planted pines, but in order to tell a little bit more of the story here, I'm going to want some sunlight filtering through those pines. So we're going to put some palmettos here in the background, and I'm gonna basically do a little push-pull with the lights and darks, and I want some highlights showing through those pines. This big stub right here we're going to get rid of. And eventually what I'll do is I'll put some of those palmettos in front of the turkey's fan to sort of set some distance and some background here. So I want that turkey to recede a little bit behind those palmettos. It's probably too much effort to do in Photoshop, so I'll do it when I paint. And so here you're starting to see the difference between the two scenes. So literally the exact same turkey, with 2 Photoshop backgrounds will produce a lot, very dramatic, 2 different scenes and 2 different stories you can tell as an artist. too, I think. So this has been my entire painting process, from the hunt that inspired a painting to selecting the pose, working out a composition, refining the background, starting to lay it out on canvas, and then the whole painting process. The only thing that's left from here on out is putting a final varnish on it. So oil paintings will take some time to dry, for the paint to dry, and then you want to put a final coat of varnish on it to protect it from dust, dirt, grime, all that kind of stuff. So that's the only step we've got here left to go, but you've seen the whole thing from start to finish, and we're interested in what you want to know from here on out. So leave a comment in the comments below and let us know. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and our newsletter, and stay tuned because we got a lot of cool content coming your way.